Well, welcome back to another episode of the Cruise Conversations podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Frank.
And today's episode is episode number 51, and we're sitting down with Jason and Garrett to talk about their recent Greek Isles cruise on the Celebrity Infinity. Let's jump into it.
Awesome. Well, today we have the honor of having Jason and Garrett on the podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Jason and Garrett. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Yeah, thanks
doing
for
good. Thanks,
for
guys.
having us on.
Of course. We actually met Jason and Garrett. They reached out to us first through a forum. They wanted information about a cruise. I believe you guys heard our review of our Greek and Italy, Greece, and Turkey cruise last year. And I think you guys were just interested in doing a similar trip. And so we were super excited to kind of help you kind of plan through that and work through that trip. And we just found out something new, that you guys also have a podcast. You guys have a Star Wars Cigars in Space podcast. So if you're listening to this and you are a big Star Wars fan, you got to go check out. We've already just been scrolling through some of the episodes, and I mean, they're professionals. So you got to go look at that.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug. I think you're pushing it professional. So.
Awesome.
Yeah,
But
no pressure now.
We've been planning this since October, so I think this is one that we've been super excited about. I mean, there's a lot of ports. You guys were there for 7 nights. You had, I believe, 5 different stops, 2 of which some are places I've never even really heard of. So we did some research, and I think we're excited to kind of hear a little bit more about those as well. But before we get into, more of the details on this cruise, we did want to talk a little bit just about your kind of travel philosophy. We always ask, why do you guys enjoy traveling, and what really motivates you? What gets you excited about traveling? Obviously, this is a big trip. You got to fly internationally. So I'm sure, this is a little bit of a nuance probably in that travel philosophy. You don't do these often, but would love to kind of hear a little bit more just about, why do you enjoy traveling, and what makes you look forward to it?
Well, the reason I travel is I like to see new places. I like to experience new experiences. Just the awe of doing, even if it's the same thing I've done before, I just like to go and do things. It's nice to get away from the humdrum everyday things of life. It's always nice to have something planned too, so you have something to look forward to. So whether it's the beach, there's no one particular place that I like more than the other that I've ever been. I like mountains. I like the beach. I love cruising. We've only been cruising now for about, what year is this? 5 years. So I just seeing new things, new plays. That's the thing for me.
I'd say ditto to a lot of that, but I think for me too, a lot of it comes down to taking meaningful trips. My whole life I've just gone to the beach. But you get kind of tired of the same old stuff. Over the course of the years that you grow older, so you start kind of wanting to kind of branch out and try new things and see new things. And so my wife likes to joke that I'm more of the one that's a little bit more tight-lipped with the money, but she pushes me to spend more and go do more. So we're a good balance, and this trip was definitely one of those for sure. However, I will say for this trip, this one was my idea.
Well, on that note, how this particular trip was born is we were having a conversation last, I don't know, summer, I guess. They always come over pretty much every one day of the weekend. We have a pool, and we come over and we all hang out by the pool and have family day and all that type of stuff. And they mentioned that they wanted to go to Europe this year. And I threw out, hey, why don't we all go to Europe and do a cruise too? And I was really just being silly because my wife is not a happy traveler.
No.
She does not like airplanes. She's very anxious in them. And of course, they're not comfortable, especially when you're flying 10 plus hours. So I didn't think she would go for it, and she was like, "Yeah." And next thing you know, I'm that's a green light. I'm rolling with it before we get a no. But this was Garrett's trip, and I'll jump into why we chose this itinerary. Garrett and I are both engineers, so by default that makes us nerds. We both like history, we both like geography, that type of thing. Well, ancient Greece and that whole area it's just got that major appeal to that for that type of thing. So Garrett was like, hey, I really want to go to Athens. That's my big thing. I want to spend some extra time in there. So if we can end or begin in Athens, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So we can spend some extra time. The one port, I wanted to hit Athens too, but the only other port that I really wanted to hit, we couldn't make happen, was Istanbul. So I'm going to have to go back. So y'all be looking for me for an itinerary so I can make sure I get Istanbul. But But so that's why we chose this one. It was the Greek island tour, and really the main thing was it beginning in Athens because once this is the way we operate. Once the cruise is over, I'm
Yeah.
ready to just go home. So I knew I didn't want to tack any on the end of it, at least for us. Yeah, so that's why we chose to put the Athens tour part at the beginning of this vacation, and then jump on the boat for the final
Nice.
week there.
Yeah, that makes sense because we've talked a lot, Frank, too, about like some of the ones that do start and end in different spots. But if you are like Jason and kind of like you said, once the cruise is over, just want to go home, that's probably why they do like these over there too, the ones that start and end.
And
Like,
logistically, it's difficult. Like, they have a lot of awesome Europe itineraries, but it is more of a logistical challenge trying to find the multi-city flights or having to, like we did, like book a flight from Athens back to Rome and then spend an extra night. Like, it is a little bit more stressful, and it seems nice that you guys are able to just hop off the ship and go straight to the airport and all that, which I know we're a little bit ahead of ourselves. We'll get into all that, but we did have another question for
Yeah.
you, Michael.
so, all right. So, speaking of cruises now, Jason, you said you started cruising about 5 years ago. Garrett, is that the same with you? Did y'all start cruising as a family, or how did y'all start cruising in general?
No, so this actually was only Brittany and I's second cruise. So
Okay.
I didn't grow up cruising, and neither did Brittany because they've only been cruising for the past few years. But no, this is our second cruise.
So for us, Brittany and Garrett got married in January of 2019. And my wife and I and our other daughter, who's 5.5 years younger than Brittany, so she was 15 this time, I guess. I think, I don't know, I have to do math. Um, we decided to do a cruise. We went on spring break of 19, right after Brittany and Garrett got married. I refer to it as, hey, we have another kid cruise. So we spent so much time on Brittany and the wedding and all that stuff going on that we wanted to do something for Gracie's her name. We wanted to do something for her, so we did a
Nice.
Holland America cruise, and I still love Holland America. This ship reminded me a lot of that Holland America. It was the Oosterdam. In fact, we were at port at Napoli. We were at Port Napoli with the Oosterdam, the very first ship we were on. So I took a
Nice.
picture of it. That was pretty cool. But they're comparable in size to the Celebrity Infinity, and just I got good vibes. I've determined that I like the smaller ships about that size. I'm not really big on the big huge ships. But as far as cruising, again, 2019 was our first one. I grew up going camping. That's what we did as a kid. We live in southeast Tennessee, North Georgia area, and we grew up going to the not the
Okay.
Smoky Mountains, but Tellico, and which is right on North Carolina line, right where drawing a blank on Robbinsville, North Carolina. Home of Ronnie Millsats, by the way. Shout out to Ronnie Millsats for any of you who know about 80s country. But grew up camping up there, and then since I've been married, we always went to the beach, and because camping is a little too much logistics
Yeah.
to deal with, plus too much extra expense. And then again, did our first cruise. Since then, this was my fifth cruise. I've never done the same cruise line twice. Did the Holland America. Right before the shutdown in February of 2020, we went with another couple, my wife and I did, on a Royal Caribbean. We did the Rhapsody of the Seas, so I really wouldn't even
Yeah.
call that Royal Caribbean. It was like some other strange haunted cruise. There were there were dead fake
Oh,
plants on that cruise ship, so they probably need to do some work on it. And then this is where Garrett's first cruise came in. Was we were going to he and Brittany graduated college. They got married while they were still in school, and they were graduating, both of them, December of 2020, which they did. So we had planned a cruise
Okay.
for December of 2020. We were going on an MSC. Was it Seaside, Seashore? I can't keep up with those. Had it all planned out, and of course it got canceled. So we finally were able to. Of course, after that, then they had jobs. We had to start coordinating, vacation time and all that stuff. So we finally were able to go on a cruise. It was almost exactly a year ago. We went last May. Took them on a Norwegian,
Oh yeah.
the Escape, and so that was their first cruise last year with the Norwegian Escape. Then this past January, my wife and I, with three other couples, including the couple that we were on the Rhapsody with, went on a 3-day cruise on the MSC. I don't know, see something. I can't remember them, but the one
Oh
out of
nice.
Port Canaveral. So we did that one, and then actually my wife and my youngest daughter did a Carnival cruise this spring. I'm still mad that they went up on me, but that's a separate issue.
Nice. That's awesome. So that's a good perspective that you bring to the podcast, just with all the different, as we're going through about Celebrity Infinity, talking about how that compared to other ships will be interesting towards the end when we get to that part. But yeah, you guys had a long flight over there. You had 6 people, like you mentioned, your family, extended
Yes.
family now. you flew from Chattanooga through Atlanta to Athens, arriving 2 days before the cruise, which gave you some time to explore Athens. How was the flight over there, and how was getting checked into the hotel, and really that first part of the trip where you got to explore Athens?
Flight over there, we left, like I said, we left Chattanooga, got a connector in Atlanta. We flew out of Atlanta around 5 local time and landed in Athens at 11-ish local time, which 11 there is 4 o'clock here on the Eastern time zone. So we tried to sleep. My butt has not fallen asleep that much in one 10-hour period than ever in my life. It's just not comfortable to. I'm okay on a plane when I can sit and I'm watching a movie and I can take a nap and then whatever. But trying to intentionally sleep it's not.
It's hard.
No.
Yeah, it was
not
difficult
possible.
for sure.
So that was the flight. It was just long.
As far as I'd say as far as like checking in, like so once we got to the airport, we landed and then of course it's we decided to go. Thank you for the pro tip about the book, by the way, by Rick Steves, the Mediterranean Cruise Port.
Yes.
He talks a lot in there about Athens in general, how to get around and the best way to do that. And so I had mapped out I had done a lot of reading of that book and a section on Athens, and had mapped out using the metro to get from the airport to go to the hotel. And I'd done everything that the book said to do, but what was odd is we got off of one of the metro ports and our phones were showing that we were still 15 minutes by walking distance to the hotel, which I knew that shouldn't be right, because in the book says from the Acropolis station, which is very close to the hotel, it's only about a 4-minute walk. We basically, all that to say, we quickly realized that our GPSs just weren't updating yet. And so we actually were where we needed to be. But we got back on the metro and went down another station or two until we realized that, oh, crap, no, it's just our GPS hadn't updated. So we ended up having to come back. And that was a little bit of a headache. But once we got, past that section, we actually, got to the hotel, found it, and, walked right in and got checked in. And I love the hotel. I mean, that hotel was amazing. I think... Yes. The fact that it goes, it's kind of weird because it kind of does this spiral staircase up into the top floors of the hotel. But as far as the cleanliness, the organization, the staff, I mean, everybody was just super helpful, super nice. And we quickly realized that they conserve a lot of energy over there, like in Greece. I'm sure all of Europe is a little bit like this, but we were finding that there's a key that you put in the door, and then if you leave, that you take that key with you, then all the lights shut off, the air shuts off, everything. Yeah. It just completely shuts off the room. So that was kind of cool to see that. We leave lights on all the time here. We leave fans on and AC units running, but over there it's like, no, when you leave, we're going to cut it all off. Yeah.
So the Acropolis stay was pretty cool. And let me give a shout out to Garrett. As soon as we realized that we were going to go over to Greece, Garrett goes and starts taking Greek lessons.
Yeah.
And he was I won't say he was fluent by any stretch in 6 months, but he was conversational. And I'm gonna tell you, if you go in there and know enough Greek to communicate with them, those Greeks go crazy. They were loving it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they kept asking me, am I Greek? Which in Greek is let's see, for a male it would be Ise Elenas. And so they kept asking me, are you Greek? Are you Greek? And I'd have to say no, I'm not Greek or anything, but my main thing was, I had learned that, I'd heard that, you go to Athens, you probably don't need to know how to speak Greek. It might help you, but these other sort of more remote places, there was one location in Athens where we were doing a little bit of shopping. I was just kind of what I had wanted was, before they joined the European Union, they were working off the drachma, which was their form of currency. I wanted to gather some of that at a local shop. Well, I went up to the owner, and she didn't speak a lick of English at all.
Oh, wow.
And so I knew that in order for me to purchase what I needed and find what I needed, I was going to have to communicate a little bit in Greek. So I more or less learned it for those purposes, just for those interactions and stuff. So, but it was pretty fun. They're really happy. Greek's a really hard language, so they were pretty happy that someone was actually making an effort, especially an American.
Well, sweet. So you're all checked into the hotel now. Like we said, you had 2 days to kind of explore Athens before the cruise actually started. What were some of the highlights of this time? Whether it's stuff you ate, stuff you experienced, how did you spend this time pre-cruise here in Athens?
Yeah, I can answer that one. And I think the most, so when we landed, we decided that we were going to kind of power through. We didn't want the jet lag to kind of prevent us from having kind of a more or less a half day there. We knew we were going to have a full day the next day, but we wanted to spend some time the first day. So we decided to get to the room, get changed, and then just go out. So, which we did. We left, and we found this one restaurant kind of by happenstance. We were really on our way to what's called Souvlaki Square, which is where you can basically buy a bunch of souvlaki, which they sell it on the streets and stuff. And we were on our way there, and we got stopped by an owner of a restaurant, and he basically more or less just ushered us into his restaurant. Yeah. So, yeah.
There really wasn't much option. There wasn't
come
much
on.
option. We were going to eat there.
Yeah, not really at all. But the place is called Leondi. If you guys want to look it up, it was really, really great. The staff was awesome. They were a fantastic restaurant. And at the end of it, they even brought us free lemon drop shots and some cheesecake, which was really cool.
Yes.
So we loved that place. We ended up leaving there and kind of spent the rest of the half day there exploring some of the sites. We went to the like Hadrian's Arch. We went to we just kind of walked around more or less and saw everything that we could see there, because we knew the next day we were going to be doing more of the archaeological stuff, like going to the Acropolis and hitting up going to the Temple of Zeus and all those different places that they have there. So that first day was more or less just walking around and kind of getting a feel for where everything was at. And then of course day 2, like I said, we went to when you go to the Acropolis, you have to pick times that you go. They won't let you just go at any time. You have to buy a ticket and go there at a specific time. So we had picked our time as to kind of get some of the group out of there, and I think we probably spent 2 hours there, and the rest of the day was seeing the rest of the archaeological sites. And we went back to Leondi, which was really great. They were really happy to see us again.
Wow.
And it was really great, though. I mean, it was
good.
The service, really the staff. I mean, everything was just.
Which is funny, because usually when they're outside, like asking you to come in, like we always joke that like those are the restaurants that like maybe they're trying to get people. They're like, it's maybe not the best, right? It's not like the hit, but it sounds like for you guys, it's kind of like
it
was actually a different story.
Well, they all were like that, yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
it was
I
fantastic.
mean, and really, all those restaurants are like that. I mean, when we were walking past, I got asked several times, "Hey, come to our restaurant, come to our restaurant." And they're really, it's like they're really going out of their way to get you to come in and stuff. So, but I'd say that was, for the most part, that was our time in Athens, just seeing those sites and eating all the good food and souvlaki and having a great time.
Yeah, that sounds like a great time. One of the great things I think that you just pointed out, like those timed entries, I think just overall, like a lot of the big sites over in Europe, that's real common. I know when I was over in Rome, whether it was the Colosseum, the Vatican City, all those, you got to choose a time and show up at the time. So yeah, something to be aware of if you're going to some of these spots over there to
pre-plan.
It's not like an all-day ticket. I mean, most of the time, once you get in, you can stay as long as you want, but you just can't show up earlier.
Right. Yeah, that a lot. Less crowded that way too.
So Jason, you texted us. We texted you to check in, I think, or you texted us or whatever. And at some point, there was a little bit of a hiccup getting, I guess, from the hotel to the cruise port. Is that right? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, like Garrett said, we'd mapped everything out by the metro, and the metro will take you from city center to the Piraeus port, and that which is the last stop of the metro. And the night before, we went and got on the boat on Saturday, or ship on Saturday morning. So Friday night, Garrett and I were on our phones. We're trying to figure out, okay, here's where the last metro stop is. Here's where the port is, and it's like I think I looked it up. It's like 3.2 kilometers, so it's basically 2 miles away, 1.5 miles, 2 miles away. And so we're like, we don't want to walk that, right? So how do we get there? And we did it. Rick Steves actually helped. Says, hey, you need to take this bus, and you can get over there. So okay, we'll figure that out. So we get down there, and we get off the metro, and there's no bus station or anything. We ask a police officer. We ask a metro worker. You would think that they didn't even know there was a port there.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but Garrett, take it from there. What we ended up doing.
More or less, I ended up just kind of asking around a few people, like,
just
trying to figure out, like, where are we going, and more or less what we had found out is that because we had paid for a 3-day metro ticket, it covered our bus fare. I didn't know that when we purchased them, so I walked up to one of the bus drivers and I asked him. I said, "Are you going to port?" And I told him the address where we were going. And he said, yeah, come on. And so we just got on the bus. He didn't even look at our ticket. So, I mean, anybody could have got on that bus. I mean, it really didn't make a difference. And so we got on the bus. We drove down to where the cruise ship, was at. But it was a little bit confusing because the bus stopped and it didn't actually go into the terminal to where you'd go to get to the port. So we actually got off the bus. And then I think we probably had to walk maybe a quarter of a mile to get to the actual place where they are, taking your luggage and the terminal and stuff. So that part of it was a little bit chaotic. And of course, for me and Jason and Brittany, we're all just kind of there for the ride. So it was kind of fun to me to just figure it out as we went. But not everybody in our group loved that.
Yeah.
I'll just say that.
I'm there for the adventure, and all of it's an adventure. We do like to be prepared. Like I told you, we got notes, so we want to be prepared. But with that, I'm okay especially if I'm by myself or with somebody like-minded, that if I got a punt, we'll just roll with it. But when I'm responsible for 5 other people, then there's a little anxiety with that, especially when they're not happy campers or as I previously described, certain entities being not happy travelers. Fortunately, we're all fit, and so it's not like anybody was having any type of issues from that perspective. It was just a matter of we're rolling suitcases up a sidewalk in Greece, and their sidewalks are not smooth.
No.
No.
It's always fun to travel with people, too, that are like you guys, that are flexible and adapting to the environment, because it's tough to predict, too, when you're in a foreign country and, things are off schedule, or it's not what you expected, or it's not exactly how it's written in the book. So it seems like you guys were able to figure it out, and you got on the ship. And for those that are listening that aren't aware about, Celebrity Infinity, it is an older ship. So it was originally delivered in 2001, but it was recently refurbished. So looking forward to maybe hearing a little bit about that today. It's 12 decks high, 90,000 gross tonnage, so just over 2,000 guests. So probably, again, a little bit maybe on the smaller side, probably even smaller maybe than Rhapsody of the Seas as well. So probably a more intimate experience on board. But yeah, you got through security and got your bags through. How was that process? And what was the first thing you guys did when you got on board?
First thing we did was went straight to our room. So you go straight to the room. They got your SeaPass cards that's stuck on the outside there of your room. And you go in. We dropped off our carry-ons or backpacks, whatever we had. Of course, we had checked our luggage outside. And so we pick up or we drop off that stuff, and we head. Usually what we do is we go straight to the top in the elevator, and then we start working our way down the ship. I've done that on every ship that I've ever been on. So we go explore everything. And I don't remember exactly, Garrett, I don't remember if I think we got most of it walked through before we went to the buffet and ate. Does that sound familiar to you, or did we stop when we got to the buffet?
Maybe you and Rachel,
and ate?
I think, did that. I know Brittany and I went to the room. We pretty much went to the room, changed clothes, and then directly went to the buffet. So we didn't actually explore much of the boat that first few little bit that we were there. Now, I will say something that was a little bit confusing about this process was, historically, I think on cruise ships when you go, they don't exactly like you to go to the room first, because the attendants like to kind of get your luggage for you, lay it all out, do the whole process. And I think that, I don't know if tips are normally associated with that moment or with that exchange, but I feel like we kind of rushed the gun because our attendant came to the room and he wasn't quite sure, it seemed like we had surprised him that we were in the room, even though that everybody, when we checked in, said, hey, go to your room, you can, they're open now, you can go to your room. So I thought that exchange was a little bit funny. I felt, of course, at the end of the cruise, we ended up tipping the room guy, the guy that made up our room every day. But in that onset, when we were first there, I felt like we were in our room and shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of an odd thing.
I think that the Celebrity lets you go and drop your bags off, but I don't know if they want you necessarily to quite yet to be getting situated in the room. So it's more of you could go throw your bags in the room and be kind of quick. That's kind of how I've always interpreted it. But maybe, I don't know. I'm not quite sure on the timing there.
I think that's what they want. I know there was a big hoopla with Carnival where people would go into their rooms and staying and showing their diamond card and say, I'm a diamond member, I don't have to leave. And there was Carnival CEO went to social media and was like, all right, y'all stop. But I didn't know Celebrity even let you go to the room. I was not even aware of that when we got on the ship. So we weren't sure how to behave. So we minimized the time in the room.
So, all right. So, like you said, you were on the ship, Jason, and you started doing your deck by deck tour of the ship. What were your first impressions of the ship overall?
Well, first of all, it never crossed my mind that this was a 20-plus-year-old ship. Yeah, the color scheme probably is 20 years old, but I'm not
Yeah.
there for the color scheme, so I don't really care. Aesthetics, I'm told you I'm an engineer, I'm a structural engineer, so I'm really more interested in things not falling down. I don't care what they look like. So that's not my. Okay, I didn't see anything that was dirty or anything that just wasn't well maintained. It
Yeah.
looked like a good ship. No concerns from that perspective. I will say, aesthetically, this is the one thing that I absolutely love is the Constellation Lounge, which is on deck 11, 4 of the ship. It's got the big glassed-in area up there at the front. It's got a bar up there, and it's got a place for live music and a dance floor and all that good stuff, and seats all around. I absolutely love that area on any
Nice.
ship. I told you earlier, my first cruise ever with Holland America, they had an area like that. It wasn't live music, but it was a bar and just kind of it's almost like a library type thing on that particular ship. But I used to go up there and just sit and just look out. I love it. When we did our cruise last year on Norwegian, that area is occupied by the Haven. So us plebes weren't not allowed to go in that area, and I was not very happy about that. So, but we spent an inordinate amount of time in that area. We pretty much came close to closing the bar down
Yeah,
every
just
night too.
about, I
So
think. With a big shebang at
yeah,
the end, and
Yeah.
a not great and a
yes,
not great moment, but that's okay.
Yeah. Right before your big
not for me.
flight,
I was
right?
fine.
So how was did you guys end up doing a sail away on the pool deck, or did you kind of just enjoy the internal spaces like you were mentioning?
I want to say at some point, actually, I think that we ended up going up to the pool. Me, Brittany, and then I think Gracie, and then her boyfriend Caden. I think we ended up going to the pool, if I remember that right. So we were actually up there when we ended up. Well, no, maybe not, because I don't think the boat actually sailed off till maybe later that night. Actually, I think.
Yeah, the sailing actually got delayed until 7 because of an influx of several cruise ships that were there. But what I don't know what y'all ended up doing or how it
Yeah.
all. I can't remember all the logistics of everything. I do know when we were sailing away, all 6 of us were up on the very top 12th deck. It was pretty empty up there. There was maybe 8 or 9 other people max total
Yeah.
up there. So I've been on other cruises where you can't stand
Yeah.
against the rail
Yeah,
because
get a
it's too
spot.
deep.
Yeah.
No issues like that on this one. It was plenty of places. So yeah, we got some good pictures. We're up there. Just heading out to the open sea. There's nothing like it.
All right, well, let's kind of move into some of the stops of your cruise.
All
So,
right.
like we said, you were cruising through Greece. Day 2 of your cruise was spent in Santorini, so it was the first
Yeah.
stop. Looking like it was a long day. Looks like you were there for 13 hours. How would you end up spending the day here, and how kind of were the crowds overall here in Santorini?
So we again the Rick Steves book. Shout out to that. Thank y'all for
Yeah, for sure.
turning on to us.
Hey, it's one of my
We
favorites.
had we did our research on that. We got off. Of course, we took a tender in, and the cable car line was as far as you could see, and I don't even know where the beginning was. So we're like,
Man.
okay, we're not waiting in that. We got off the ship a little bit later than what we intended, but that was all good. But so we ended up we weren't doing donkeys, so we were not
We'll clap
walking
for
up.
that.
We
We
were
don't want
not.
to animal abuse. We're not.
Yes, no, no donkeys, and we are not walking where donkeys trod. So well,
Yeah.
we ended up getting it was called a speedboat, and I don't really know that it was speeding, but it was basically a boat that took us up to EI.
Nice.
And so we purchased passage on the old ferry. We went up to EI, and we spent most of the morning and ate lunch up there, and just kind of checked out the shops, took some pictures. The negative to it is that was the only day we had any rain, and it was actually chilly, rainy, and somewhat foggy.
Wow.
But we were able to get in a good, delicious lunch there. Do you remember the name of that place,
I
Garrett?
missed I'll have to look back. It starts with an A, but it's right there. Beautiful view. I mean, it's literally right there. It's
Yes, it was
yeah,
kind of on the side of the cliff there.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. I'll have to go find the name of the place. It's on one of my receipts. But yeah.
And I asked about the crowds because this is one of the places, right, where, if you're not familiar, IA is like the one with the blue
Yeah.
roofs and all the white buildings,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And it's like when I was there, I mean, I'm telling you, it was worse than Disney World, man. You just
No,
crowds
it
of
wasn't
people
like that.
everywhere.
It wasn't like that. It was crowded, and there was people, but You know, I've been to Disney World, and the only time I've ever been to Disney World is between Christmas and New Year's, so I know crowds. So
I think it definitely. I think it was a lot of the rain. The rain was kind of deterring people. I think
yeah,
from not necessarily going
Gotcha.
up there. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm standing in the rain in Ia, so I didn't give a crap about no rain. So for me,
Yeah.
you know, I just,
Preach.
I was like, I don't care to get soaked, you know. But not everybody's like
Yes.
that, and you know, so that probably had something to do with it.
no, I agree. I mean, we were there, and it was fine. We ended up taking the bus back down to Fira, and we got to Fira. The rain apparently was on the north end of the island, so we get back down. Of course, Fira is where the tender came in, and where the cable car was, and all that. So we got there. We just kind of walked through and checked out shops, and just kind of sauntered our way back. Did take the cable car back down. It did. The line was about a 40-minute wait, I think, something like that. So the cable car was kind of neat, but
Yeah.
and
It's a cool
that was
experience.
that was pretty much the day. We ended up getting back a little bit early. Yeah, because we actually had an earlier dinner, which I should have planned that a little bit better, but you know, whatever. So dinner, and when I say earlier, it was like 6:30 or 6:45, something like that. But
Nice. Well, I'm glad that you guys sounds like you had a decent day, even though the weather didn't hold up in Santorini. And I know for myself, I actually walked down, and let me just tell you, you guys didn't miss that. You didn't miss much with that. I mean, that is you're sore after that. Like we were in the jacuzzi, I was like stretching out the legs, you know, getting those
Yeah.
things up again. I mean, it's a tough hike down. So glad you did not have to walk up or down that. But sounds like again you had a great day in Santorini. So the next stop is probably one of my favorites. It's an underrated port, at least one that I didn't expect to love. But for me, that was Ephesus. Hopefully, you guys had a
Yes.
similar stop, but this was in Turkey. You know, I think one of the things that we recommended was to do the ancient Ephesus, which is like a biblical kind of, you know, historic ancient ruins type experience. You can also do beaches and some of that stuff if you're not into the sites. But I think you guys did a private tour through Viator on this day. So what did you guys end up thinking about ancient Ephesus, and did you end up getting one of the Turkish rugs or any cool Turkish souvenirs while you were there?
we did not get a Turkish rug. We
Good
did
job.
Participate in the we did participate in the push.
I will say I didn't feel
no,
like we had.
Kusadasi there.
I was just
Go
saying, no.
ahead.
I at one point I feel like we weren't going to have a choice whether we got to choose between a rubber, but that's a different thing.
I will say that they weren't quite as pushy as what I have read and heard about. I mean, they were pushing it and they were selling it, and they did a good job on it. And quite frankly, if I were in the market for a rug, I probably would have bought one. But I'm not in the market for a rug. Y'all saw Sammy, the cat, comes through here. She's gone through spells where she likes to pee on rugs, and I'm not really interested in having a Turkish rug that my cat pees on. Thank you. So, so once we no longer have cats, maybe we'll consider it. No, we did. You said
Yeah.
we went through the Viator. Did have a little bit of a mishap at the beginning because they said they were going to meet us at the end of the pier. I'm still not sure where the end of the pier was because you get off the boat, you go to, I guess, the end of the pier, but then it just kind of keeps going and goes through shops, and there's a security checkpoint. And I didn't think that they could get through the security
Oh, yeah.
checkpoint, so I went all the way out to the road, and apparently he was in here. But there was a messaging function within the app for Viator, and we ended up touching base with them, and we actually got together with them earlier than our appointed time, but we did lose about 30 minutes that we could have gotten. I got off the boat in plenty of time for us to stumble around. So, but yeah, they took us to Ephesus, and we toured ancient Ephesus. We did see the terraced houses too. We added that to it, which is not part of your
Nice.
typical tour. Ephesus was
That's
just
awesome.
amazing. I did make a list of everything we saw within Ephesus. They had the Library of Chelsea. They had the terraced houses we mentioned. They had the Agora and many other things there. And then we went from there to the place where we had lunch. Nice Turkish meal. It was fabulous. Of course, that was co-located where the Turkish rug sale was. And
Yeah.
they showed us that, which is, quite frankly, anybody who goes and does the tour, don't don't skip this because of the sale. Just go in resolved that you're not going to buy one unless you want one. But enjoy it and watch because it's really amazing how they make these things. Yeah.
Right.
We went from there to St. John's Basilica and the House of the Virgin Mary, and then the Temple
Oh,
of
wow.
Artemis, or shall I say the Column of Artemis, because that's
Yes.
all that's left. So overall, that was probably the best day overall. And because again, I'm a nerd and I really liked all the archaeological stuff. It's part of the cruise. Athens was awesome, but that was not part of the cruise technically speaking. So no, it was fantastic. Aikut was our tour guide. He was fantastic.
Awesome. Well, yeah, sounds like another great day. I know, Frank, like you've mentioned on the podcast, you really enjoyed this stop too. Sounds like another long day too, and I think that's just overall just the big thing with these European stops is long days at ports, but it's worth it at the end of the day. Now, your next port stop is Mykonos, another kind of popular Greek port.
Yes.
How did you end up spending your time here?
So starting out on this one, we got off with I guess we had a tentative plan. I looked up and we started following one of Rick Steve's walking tour. I think we kind of stumbled across some of the stuff that he had in there. Basically, we walked around, I guess, the south edge and went up. We saw where Little Venice was. We went up to the windmills up on the hill.
Oh, nice.
And then we had lunch at a little local eatery there and had Slovaki. And then after that, my wife and I, we just kind of sauntered back through the shops and went back to the ship. Garrett and Brittany and then Caden and Gracie, they decided to go explore more. Garrett, what all did y'all do?
Yeah, so we, I'd read in the book that, obviously if you're going to swim, Mykonos is one of the greater places to do it when you go. And so I thought, all right, well, let's take a bus and let's go to one of the beaches there, which is called Ornos. And so we took a bus and we paid for our bus ticket, and they took us to Ornos. And we got there, and I was very pleasantly surprised that it wasn't overly crowded. Rick Steve said in his book that if you go around July or August, you won't get a spot on the beach. And so I was kind of afraid about that at first. But we got there, and I was very, very pleased that it wasn't overly crowded or anything like that. So we rented a couple little chairs there on the beach. And then, they have wait service basically that comes and brings you, anything you want, food, drink, whatever. And, we just kind of hung out there and got in the water and just swam and sort of just enjoyed our time there. The water was frigid, but it was awesome. It's still a little early, I think, in the season. So I guess as the summer goes on, the water will warm up a bit. But no, it was really great. We ended up, running into a lot of people there that were from America. So we talked to them and kind of about their trip and what they were doing. And then we kind of got back on the bus and went back to the Mykonos town and caught our caught our tender and got back to the boat. So that was our Mykonos day.
Nice. Yeah, and Mykonos is like the more popular like beach club kind of vibe. You said it was still like pretty early in the season, so probably wasn't too crazy.
No, yeah.
Usually like July is kind of like the time where everyone's kind of going for like the beach club scene,
Gotcha.
and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
but
one of the things that I read at Mykonos is that it's really known for its nightlife.
yeah.
And obviously we weren't able to be there for that, but I'm kind of old for that anyway, so it's probably okay.
Awesome. Sounds like you had a great time. Got to make the most of the day in Mykonos. So now I'm going to try to pronounce this one. Garrett, you can feel free to correct me, but Thessaloniki,
Thessaloniki,
I believe is what.
Yeah, and
Thessaloniki.
obviously, if you're a Christian and you read about Paul's time in Thessaloniki, and the Bible says Thessalonica. Obviously, that's just the English translation from the Greek or whatever. But yeah, Thessaloniki was really cool. So my instructor, the guy that I've been taking my lessons from, he lives an hour from Thessaloniki. And so I asked him, I said, hey, we're going to be here. I don't know if you can make it, but, we'd love to, I'd love to see you. I'd love to run into you. And, if you're not busy. So we actually got off the boat and he drove from his town, which is called Kozani, about an hour away. And he actually came and met us in Thessaloniki. And he literally was just our tour guide for the entire day. He didn't have to do that. I just was like, hey, if you want to, you can. That'd be super great. But he just took it upon himself and just showed us around the city. I mean, we walked a lot because Athens.
I had 25,000 steps.
Yeah.
Man.
Well, the problem with Thessaloniki is that Athens, everything is right there. You want to go to a lot of the stuff. It's within relatively 5 minutes walking. But Thessaloniki, everything's so spread out. So if you want to see a lot, you've got to walk a lot. Which I will say, everywhere he took us, was something incredible. Like whether it was a view or it was something ancient or it was whatever. It was super cool. And also the fact that they don't have a metro in Thessaloniki like they do in Athens. And the reason for that, my instructor told me, was that because every time they try to build a metro, they end up digging and finding another archaeological site. And so it becomes protected by the government there, and then it prevents them from building a metro. So for 10 years, they've been trying to build a metro there,
Interesting.
and they can't because every time they dig up, they find something else. So
That's
yeah,
crazy.
so it was cool. But he was really great. Took us to a restaurant. We were there for lunch, and a dessert place. We all ended up getting espresso and everything, and just really enjoyed the day there, getting the most of the city. I really felt like we hit all the highlights, and I'm really thankful that we had him, because we ended up they hand you a map when you get off the boat at this port, and we were looking at this map, and I was like, oh man, good luck, and I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, if I have to do this by myself, I'm gonna be really mad. But yeah, he was really great. We ended up paying him. He didn't expect that, but we wanted to bless him with that, and thank him for giving us his time. I mean, he was really with us for about 6 hours, I think. So
Wow.
he
It
spent,
was. I think we got off around 10, and I think we got back on. I think we left him close to 5 p.m., so it was closer to 7, I think,
Wow.
something like that.
That's really
it was,
nice.
It was.
Yeah.
It was pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
it was cool.
Pretty awesome trip.
And I mean, I think I missed the point of you saying these were virtual, like online Greek lessons. For some reason, like I'm learning German
Yeah.
on
Oh,
Duolingo,
yeah.
and I've been doing
Yeah.
it
I
on
was
that
thinking
for a couple of
Duolingo.
years. But yeah, the fact that you were actually, and that he came out and, like you said, kind of just showed you around
That's
for the day.
super
is
cool.
Yeah,
super
I know.
neat.
I didn't expect him to do that at all. I really didn't even think he'd be able to make it. But I mean, he really went like way above and beyond. And I would say, like, if you are the type of person who like wants to, I would say probably Thessaloniki is a great day to have a guide. I think, because like I said, everything is so spread out. If you want to get the most of that port, it might not be a bad idea. And I know that like through the cruise, they were offering a lot of these same services, like if you wanted to get a guide and kind of walk through the city. And we did see people like that, and who were holding up their signs and walking around. My instructor ended up asking me, he said, who are these people that are walking around with signs? He said, I saw them all come from your cruise ports. I was like, there are people who are doing exactly what you're doing today. I was like, they're literally just showing people this place. I was like, that's all they're doing. And he's like, people do that? And I was like, yeah, they do. I was like, they do that.
For 120 bucks per person.
Exactly.
Yeah,
for a very inflated price, in my opinion. But either way, it's nice to have a guide there, I think.
Perfect. Well, it sounds like a great day. Now, day 6, you finally got to slow down a little. You got a sea day.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't throw,
Yes.
sometimes you get 0 sea days on some of these European stops. So, I mean, it came a little later in the cruise, but it's probably nice just to, like we said, have a day to just stay on the ship.
Put the dogs up,
Yeah, lay around.
Yes.
What did the sea day look like on the Celebrity Infinity? How were the crowds around the ship during it? Like we said, the ship holds about 2,000 people. How was your sea day?
So yeah, we started off every morning. I'm the early riser, so I head up to the buffet, and then my wife will join me shortly thereafter. And then the kids, yeah, I know they're all in their 20s, but they're still kids. They tend to come out of the catacombs at some point later on. But no, my wife and I like going to the casino and playing the slots. We tend to play the cheap, the 1 cent slots, but more so than the rest of them do. So that was one of the advantages. See, when you're in port all day, the casino's closed.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't open until an hour after you've left port, roughly speaking. So, we'd only been able to hit it one of the nights, I forget. But so we go in there, we play the casino a little bit, and we just relax and go up to the Constellation Lounge and just chill and look out at the ocean and just whatever. Originally the sea day was supposed to be the last day. We were supposed to go to Volos. I'm trying to remember, I think it was supposed to be Thessaloniki and then Volos, and then sea day, and then back to Piraeus, but could have been the other way. I forget now how it was. I know they moved Thessaloniki, so I can't remember now what it was originally supposed to be. But anyway, so moving that, I think it was nice to have the sea day and then have one more day after that.
Yeah.
But it was another day to be able to explore the ship a little bit more. One thing that I did was I tried to make a point to go get a drink at every bar that on the ship. I think I missed. There's the Michael's bar that we're not allowed to drink at because it's for the upper crust. You have to be, I don't remember now, you have to be in a suite or something. I forget what it was. But then I think I missed one other one. I can't remember which one it was now. But so just kind of, hit all that and just kind of, and that was also the day, of course, they had chic night, which is a formal night. So we had dressed up. We didn't take suits, but all the guys we did wear black shirts and black pants with little glittery bow ties. First time they've ever got me
nice.
in a bow tie. I'm normally against bow ties.
That's awesome.
So we could get pictures. So that's what we did. Garrett, what did y'all
Yeah,
do? Y'all all four stayed together for the
yeah, I'd
most
say
part.
so. I mean, most of the day really was, the girls really like to lounge by the pool, and so we kind of just did that. We kind of, went up there and, they have the pool bar there, and so we just kind of hung out by the pool and, a hot tub and kind of really just did that for a good bit of the day. Really just kind of relaxed because, right, I mean, we're, it's pretty much go, go, go the rest of the, the beginning half of the cruise. And so this kind of like last half was really nice to just kind of lay around and then, eventually that night going to dinner and, and that sort of thing. So really not too much on our end there.
So your last stop was changed, like you mentioned. It was supposed to be Volos, and they switched it to Nafplion. Is it Nafplion?
This one I still don't even know. I think it's just I think it's just Nafplion. I think is how it's pronounced. But
that's what I think.
Okay. Well, I looked it up. I did look it up for you guys. We looked at some pictures and everything. I mean, when I looked at the photos of this place, I was like, man, this looks insane. Like the water was absolutely gorgeous. It reminded me a lot of like the Amalfi Coast, just like with the kind of buildings on, or like the houses and stuff like on the cliffs. From what I could see, I wasn't there with you, but from what I could see from the photos, I was like, this place looks spectacular. So how was it? I mean, were you happy with the switch, and what did you guys think of this port stop?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a beautiful place. It was a tender port. There wasn't a lot going on there unless you just like checking out shops and stuff, which we did. We went and we kind of walked around through shops for a couple of hours. But after that, my wife and I, we headed on. Actually, Rachel and I, Caden and Gracie, all four came back to the ship and ate lunch on the ship, whereas Brittany and Garrett stayed in town for a little bit, and I'll let him tell that. Most of the stuff, before he starts on, most of the stuff to do that I looked up is about an hour away. So you'd have to do an excursion or rent a car or rent a shuttle.
Gotcha.
And we just chose not to do that. So we took it as another chill day, basically.
So in Nafplio, they have this, up on a really, really high cliff, they have this, like, I guess it might have used to been like a fort or something like that. And I was like watching people in the distance walking up this fort, and I thought, all right, I'm going to try it. So we, Brittany and I, we proceeded to climb up, way up. And I think I made it 3/4 of the way there. Now, I should also preface that while we were in Greece, I drank a lot of espresso. Okay, like I drank an obscene amount of espresso. I had like 2 things of espresso that day, and I decided with very little water to walk up this massive mountain, basically. And we get about 3/4 of the way up there. I start feeling lightheaded and dizzy, and I'm thinking, this is not good. So I told Brittany, I said, look, I don't think I'm going to get airlifted off this thing, so I'm going to stop. And so, Brittany said, well, I want to keep going. And it was maybe another 150 steps or something. So I stayed where I was, and then she went up the rest of the way and took some pictures and, whatever. And that was really fun. Yeah, that was really beautiful. The views up there, and I've got some videos of, you can see the entire city and then the mountains off like miles away. It was, the water is just beautiful. Beautiful place. We ended up climbing down, and then we were kind of hungry, so we were looking for this place to eat. We found this place, and again, I'm wrecking the names of these restaurants, and if anybody that lives over there is listening to this, they are going to be really irritated. But the place that we stopped, I think it was called Sikas, I think was the name of it, and it's this crepe place. Of all places, it's kind of weird.
Sikas.
It's just a crepe place, and there's this English gentleman that came and greeted us when we walked up. And he said that in the 80s, he moved from England to Greece and he moved here. And he told us all about Nafplio and how when the Greeks won their independence in the 1860s or 1870s, Nafplio was the capital city of Greece. And I didn't know that. And so he told us a little bit about the place. I think his girlfriend is one of the people that works in the kitchen. And so she was making crepes and stuff. And so we ended up getting food there and absolutely loved it. The food was fantastic, and so we ended up, leaving there and decided to get some last-minute pictures, and then we went back to the boat, and that was our day in Nafplio.
Sounds like a great day. Crepes, hikes, beautiful views.
Yeah, it was lovely. Very lovely day.
Tough to beat.
Yeah, all right. So that kind of wraps up kind of the cruise part itself, right? Your different stops you stopped at. Let's kind of turn and focus some time on the Celebrity Infinity now. So obviously, on all your stops, you ate some great food off the ship. Let's talk about some food on the ship. So how did y'all normally spend kind of your breakfasts and dinners kind of on the ship when you were having meals here on the Celebrity Infinity?
So pretty much, as I stated a minute ago, we would go to the buffet every morning for breakfast. I'm not normally a breakfast eater when it's free, quote unquote free. Obviously, you're paying for it for your cruise fare, but when it's free, I will eat breakfast, especially at a buffet. So we would go up and we would eat, and like I said, we'd all eventually end up there together. And then as far as lunch, we pretty much ate lunch except for the days that we mentioned. We ate lunch in town.
Nice.
And then dinner we ate in the main dining room, all but 2 nights. The first night we did not want to go get changed or anything, so we ended up eating at the buffet on sail away day.
Okay.
And I think it was the Ephesus day, the day in Turkey, because we got back and we had walked so much from that particular one, and our dinner was supposed to be at like 6 something, that we just didn't want to get changed, so we just went to the buffet on that one too. Didn't do any specialty dining, anything like that. Didn't pay any extra for that. But so overall though, the food wasn't the best. I think the choices weren't quite to my expectations. I think that was because a lot of the food choices there are geared towards Europeans. Caden, as I mentioned earlier, my youngest daughter's boyfriend, he's 6'8", 270 pounds, and he bemoaned the fact more than once that they didn't have any biscuits and gravy. So for anybody listening to this that you're not in the South, yes, we eat biscuit and gravies by the pound. So
Wow.
especially when you're trying to be a left tackle on the football field this year, you got to make sure you get some more weight. But just little things like that. Overall, it was fine. It was good. But it wasn't anything to write home about, as they say. But you know, it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Garrett, what do you think about it?
Well, I should say this. I thought the buffet food was phenomenal. I really liked the buffet food a lot. I think it's because they had a bigger variety, and so there was a lot more to kind of in other words, if you got tired of Asian food, jump over to the pasta bar, or if you got tired of Italian food, jump over to the Hispanic food, So there was a lot more kind of options there, but the dinner food was good. I mean, I thought it was good. Some of the dishes that we got, some were hit or miss. Some of them were really good. But I think really that just the thing that was the most off-putting about the dinner service was just the duration. It took a long time for us to eat dinner. Probably like 2 hours. To kind of get through. Except one night. There was one night that we went outside of our.
Wait, a different
table, and so it could have been a little bit of just the specific waiters that we had. I think that some of us were getting a little towards the end of the cruise. Some of us were getting a little bit irritated because we were missing certain things on the boat because the dinner service was taking so long. Like they were having games or whatever it was, and it was like, well, can't go to that because we're still sitting here eating dinner. So.
I do think that our waiter was, and they were great. I mean, as far as nice and polite and the service from that perspective. But if I were to guess, I would say that our head waiter, this was probably his first or second cruise being a head waiter.
Wow.
He seemed to be a little lost at times. Good service. He seemed to be a great guy. He wasn't the one night that we had a different waiter. Things seemed to be a little more professional. If that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm not saying anything negative about the other guy. I'm just simply saying that it was better with the other one. And that particular night, we were in and out in about an hour and a half.
Wow.
But every other night, it seemed that it just drug on forever. And it was to the point where Garrett and I were timing them the last night. And we didn't even do dessert. And we were in there for an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah.
It was that last night, it was 20 minutes before we saw our waiter. Now, we saw the sommelier and we saw the assistant waiter, but before our actual waiter came out, we had been sitting there for 20 minutes. So.
Yeah, and I should say too that some of the food, for example, like we're prime rib, they would have New York strip steak. They had a lot of pasta stuff. They would have a fish most every night. The desserts would change, but there was select few desserts that stayed the same every night. We typically we eat dessert with our coffee. That's just how we like to roll. But we were finding that we'd get our dessert, but then like 10, 15 minutes later, we'd get our coffee. So we stopped doing that, or whatever. But I felt that the food, there was a good, mix of food and things. But I think for the most part, I think we were just, I think more or less we were just wanting to kind of move along with the evening, I should say. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I need to make this statement: the ice cream at the buffet, not I don't do the soft serve. They had the soft serve, but they had the scoop ice cream. First of all, I'm a sucker for strawberry ice cream at the buffet on a cruise ship. But
Okay.
one particular day they had cherry brandy. Oh my
Oh,
word. Oh, it sounds weird, but it was fantastic. So,
so it made
anybody's
up for
ever
the
on
other
there,
stuff.
cherry
Yeah.
brandy ice cream, do it.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, thanks. That's good feedback. At least,
Yeah.
we've heard a lot of positive things. So it could have been a situation with, being over in Europe and limited resources or different things that could have played a factor. So that is good to hear, though, in terms of the feedback, just so we have it as well as we're planning for other people. But
Now, don't get me wrong, we didn't stop
Oh
eating
yeah,
it.
no. Let's stop eating it at all. No.
oh, that's funny. So you guys, when we booked these rooms, right? So we did the all included package, right? Which luckily we did have some good pricing on that. That it made sense. But curious to hear. It sounds like you guys really made the most of the drink portion. I know that Jason, you upgraded to get the extra bourbons. How was the experience with that all in package with the drinks and the Wi-Fi? Is this something that you would be interested in doing again in the future, or probably like a one and done situation?
The Wi-Fi was fine. I didn't upgrade anything beyond what was with the all-inclusive package. My youngest daughter, Gracie, and then her boyfriend, they both upgraded the Wi-Fi so that they could do videos and call. He wanted to call and talk to his mom and his dad and that type of
Yeah.
thing. And I don't know, whatever 20-year-olds do. I don't flipping know what they do. But as far as the drink package, we ended up all upgrading to the premium drink package. And I found this on every cruise ship that I've ever been on, is when you read the paperwork that they give you that says, here's what's on your standard drink package, this is what's on your premium drink package, and whatever each line calls it, it basically says, oh, you can get these liquors, these bourbons, or you can get the higher version of them. But when you get on the ship, honestly, none of that really even exists. What you have is a menu, and it has drink prices on it. And if your drink costs $10 or less, then it's covered on the classic package. If it's up to $17, then it's covered on the premium package. And if it's over 17, then you just pay the difference. By the way,
Right.
they had a scotch.
Oh,
They had a scotch on there at the which
it
one?
was
Which bar was
the
that? Was it the
run-
Rendezvous
yeah,
bar? The
rendezvous.
Rendezvous bar. They had a scotch, $105 for a shot of scotch. 105. So minus 17, you're still paying $92.
Yeah.
No, I
Did you try it?
88 bucks. 88 bucks. Sorry, I didn't. I don't. First of all, I don't like scotch, so therefore I wasn't paying that for it. But anyway, but that's the thing is that, and I noticed it on Norwegian last year, and I've noticed it on the MSC ship. It's all the same. Is this? As a matter of fact, on the MSC ship when I was on it in January, I asked if they had a particular bourbon that was on their list on the premium package. They didn't even have it on the boat. So, and I don't know if I don't. They had a lot more variety on the celebrity ship, so I was much more pleased with that. But ultimately, it's not so much the premium version of the bourbons or the whiskeys or whatever you want to drink. It's more about what's the cost of the drink. So my
Yeah.
recommendation to anybody that's trying to make a decision, I would go ahead and upgrade to the premium. That way you don't have to think about it as a general rule. Because most of the drinks tend to be in the $12 to $14 range, was my observation. So that's going to be above the $10 limit for the classic. But it's not about what they're putting in it. It's just simply go find the menus for each of the restaurants. That will tell you what it is that or the bars. That's going to tell you how much your drink's going to cost.
Yeah, I think what your point makes sense, right? Because you're not really usually buying a shot, right? You're normally buying a
Right.
drink, and so they're putting the total price of the drink plus the mixers and all that.
But if you are like a big bourbon and whiskey person and there's like a real premium one that you CO beforehand, all right, they have that, but it's going to be so much money.
Yeah,
And then you
exactly.
get on the ship and
And then it's changed.
We spent, like I said, we spent an inordinate amount of time at the Constellation Lounge, and we got to know the bartender there. His name's Roman. Fantastic dude, by the way. Great guy. He took care of us. Probably more than he needed to from time to time. But they had Buffalo Trace, they had Woodford Preserve, they had
They had
I'm trying to
wild
remember
turkey.
some of the other stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
but he never really asked
Forget.
when they're making you a mixed drink, they're not asking which bourbon do you want in it
No.
based on your package. They're making the drink. Now, if you're getting a shot of something on the rocks, which I do, I like my I told you I like my bourbon on the rocks. Okay, then I'm ordering that bourbon and
Right.
wherever it falls. Now, a lot of the menus would have the bourbons or the whiskeys or the scotches all listed in a separate section on a different page or something, but even then it was a limited menu. And again, I don't think I encountered it on this ship, but I have in the past where they have it on the menu and they don't even have it at the bar. So
Yeah.
I find across the industry cruise line drink menus to be a little bit misleading.
Misleading. Yeah.
But that's also another good point because I know, for example, like if I'm going to order an old fashioned and they got Woodford, I'll specify.
You have to specify.
Yeah, like I'll do a Woodford old
Yeah.
fashioned to make sure, like I said, I get my Woodford versus them putting
Buffalo Trace
Jack
or
whatever
the
the house.
Don't be putting no dick. Don't be putting no dickel in my old fashioned.
Yeah, no, we don't want that.
Oh. Well, let's kind of talk about entertainment. I know you said you had some longer evenings in the dining room, so it kind of hindered some of this in the evenings. But for the entertainment you were able to see around the ship, how was it? Like, were you able to see any live shows, some of the music around the ship, any comedy shows? What did the entertainment look like over there on the Celebrity Infinite?
We did go to the main theater and saw a comedian, Chris Bliss. He was pretty funny. We enjoyed that. We saw him at the adults version of that, even though he pointed out that his adult non-kid friendly really isn't a lot different than his
Okay.
regular one. But so we actually ended up talking to him afterwards for 4 or 5 minutes. So he's
Yeah.
a pretty good guy. But other than that, we really didn't go to the theater for any shows or anything. Garrett and Brittany are really big music people. He made sure that we were there for karaoke night. And Garrett, take that away.
Yeah, I mean, I just like karaoke. I've just always liked it. It's fun, nobody's there. It's not serious. Nobody's taking you serious. You just go and have a good time. So it's sometimes you get up there and someone's phenomenal. And you're like, wow, okay. So either way, whether someone's awful or whether someone's really good, it's equally as entertaining. So
Oh yeah.
but Brittany and I both did. We both did the karaoke as well, which was fun. And then, but I would also say too, they had one of their live bands that they had was this one band that kind of played throughout the ship, throughout the week, and so I would tune into them, find out where they're going to be, and go sit and listen to them for a little bit, and just check them out because they, I just like live music in general, so for me it's just kind of fun to sit down with a drink, just kind of sit, listen to some classics. Or one of the nights in the Rendezvous bar, they had like a jazz band, and that was really cool. I really liked that, and get to experience that. But as far as entertainment goes, I really don't think we did a whole lot aside from the karaoke night and the comedian. I know they had like what was his name? They had like trivia, which we went to that one night. They had what was the other thing too? They had a guy, something in the Vagabonds was his name, and he was like a 50s act or something, and they were in the theater most nights and stuff. But I don't think we went to go see him at all or anything. But I mean, yeah.
A lot of that had to do with the fact that we had dinner that went late, and we just had other things that we wanted to do. Maybe karaoke conflicted with it, or we just wanted to go up to the Constellation Lounge and again look out the windows, see the open sea, and let Roman serve us up with. We got to the point where we were taxing his mind of making him give us different drinks, and I would just go up to him and say, "What do I want, Roman?" And he would give me something different.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's pretty fun.
Yeah, Roman was really
I
great.
like that.
We really liked him a lot. And
Yeah.
just saying, like, hey, what do you got that's good with gin in it? Or what do you got that's good with this in it? He was
Right.
really good about just coming up with stuff. And he liked us a lot, too, because, everyone, just testing him, see what he could do. So that was fun.
That's fun. That's the best part about getting the drink package. You get to try. I was gonna say that's the best part about getting the drink package is you do get to try new things that you probably like. I would never order gin at a bar because I'm just not a gin drinker.
Right.
But like when you're on a
absolutely.
cruise,
Correct.
you're like, yeah, I'm gonna try it.
Right.
Yeah, it was funny because Roman was on. He was on the ship, and he's dating a girl that he met on the ship. I don't think on the previous ship, but it was funny because the first night we're up there, we're just chat. Actually, the first day we go up there, we start chatting. There's literally nobody else in the Constellation Lounge, and so we chat with him. I'm just interacting with him, and I have this thing where I just start talking to people, and I pry like their entire life history out of them. I think it's a gift, but then he tells us, hey, my girlfriend's on the ship with me, and blah blah blah. Well, I think it was the next night. She gets called to come up to Constellation Lounge because it gets really busy, and he's like, "Hey, this is my girlfriend," and he's like, "Hey, these are the guys I was telling you about." So apparently he liked us too. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
so that was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It's great when you have like a good crew member too that like makes
Yeah.
the trip memorable. You guys will be talking
Yeah.
about Roman for years to come.
yeah.
I'm sure just the
Yeah.
memories. So, well, at some point, unfortunately, the cruise had to come to an end. I mean, all great things do come to an end at some point. How was the disembarkation process in Athens, and any issues, going from the port to the airport or getting through customs? I know you guys flew through Charlotte. Was everything pretty smooth and relatively simple, or was there some complexities to it?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, hold on. We'll go to the. I'll let Garrett go to the flights in a second. Because of
Oh
the
man.
difficulties of getting from the cruise port to the metro, or rather from the metro to the cruise port coming, we decided to just book a shuttle through the airport. Or excuse me, book a shuttle to the airport from the through the cruise line. So we just did that and said, we did the luggage service. We're normally walk off people. I want to walk off my luggage, but with the unfamiliarity of being in Athens and the whole process there, I will say that the whole cruise port there was different than any of the other cruises that I've been on going out of any of the Florida ports. I've been out of
Yeah.
Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Port Canaveral and Tampa. So I've been 4 different ports. This was just completely different. So I didn't want to chance any of that. So we did the luggage thing and the whole shebang and got off and just took the shuttle up to the airport. And this made it much simpler.
Yeah, and
But yeah, Garrett. So I'll set this up. We told you earlier we flew Chattanooga to Atlanta direct to Athens. But to save like $300 per person, we flew back on American Airlines. We flew Delta out there, flew back on American to Philadelphia, to Charlotte. We didn't see y'all, and then to Chattanooga.
right. Well, yeah.
Now,
So once we got to the airport and there got on our flight and everything, that wasn't really difficult. That process wasn't tough. But we got on our flight. We did 10 hours, which of course the time change is just. I mean, it took us about 4 days to sleep off the jet lag when we got back home. I think I'm just now.
You're probably still jet lagged.
I'm just now getting my body clock. I mean, the first night when we got back, we ended up sleeping all day, and then that night we were tired again by like 6:30, and so it was throwing us off the rest of the week. But anyway, getting back on that flight though, getting to Philadelphia wasn't a problem. But once we got to Philadelphia, every time that we got on a new flight, when we would land in the next city, we were sitting on the tarmac for probably 45 minutes to an hour before we actually could get off the flight.
No.
So each flight, it was a crapshoot of, oh dear God, are we going to make the next flight? And so it became this super stressful thing. And the last, when we were in Charlotte, we got off the flight after being on the tarmac forever, got off and noticed that they had started loading already, probably at this time, or in our minds, we're going to.
They were supposed to be
loading, and we were still on the first flight coming into Charlotte. So we get off that plane and we just run. I mean, that's the only way we could do it. I mean, we literally sprinted to the terminal to get to the Chattanooga flight.
If you're familiar with Charlotte, we had to sprint from Terminal B to Terminal E.
And
Yeah, that's a long.
It's not close.
I heard somebody say while we were running, it was an older gentleman. I guess he was laughing at us running, and he said something to his wife. He said, "Oh, that's the Charlotte Shuffle." And I thought,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, okay. I guess they're known for this here. So, yeah.
So,
It's not great.
to give you just a quick bit of detail, when we got there, we actually arrived in Philadelphia an hour early, and they couldn't make the jetway fit to our plane.
That was rough.
And 45 minutes later, they finally figured that out. I don't know what. So by the time we got off that, and I've never flown international and had a connection. So anytime I've ever flown international, which has only been 2 other times, that I flew in and out of Atlanta. So when I got to Atlanta, I'm international. We just get off, go through customs, bam, we're done.
Yeah.
So I was not aware of the process of that. So when you get off and you got a connection, you basically go through immigration, you go through customs, passport, all that stuff, and you basically leave the airport. You
Yeah.
don't walk outside, but you can, and then you have to come all the way back in through security and all that stuff, which obviously takes a lot of time because your entire plane, as a general rule, is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And who knows how many other planes and how many people are coming in. So it was all of that, and then by the time we finished all of that, we literally had 30 minutes to get onto our next flight. So we're rushing through Philadelphia airport, only to have the flight delayed, and then for them to change gates, and then it get delayed again.
Oh
Um,
man.
and then we only had 2 hours in Charlotte. And then we get to Charlotte, and after all the delays and everything that went on there, Garrett already mentioned that we had to sprint through Charlotte. We did make the plane. In fact, the plane out of Charlotte ended up leaving a few minutes late too. So we ended up getting
Nice.
home in Chattanooga. Supposed to get here at 5 minutes till midnight Saturday night. We got here at 10 after. So
Okay.
Not bad.
we breathed. Once we got on the plane in Charlotte, it was all we had to. Like I like to say, all we lacked was finishing. So
Yeah.
I have no recollection of the flight from Charlotte. I fell asleep and I don't know a thing about
It
it.
was. I think we all did. We were really tired.
Yeah, when we got on that plane, it was basically 5 in the morning for us, Athens
Right.
time.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, we didn't
Yep.
know what day was. We didn't know what day it was. So
That was the same thing with me and my flight home because we were connecting through Philly
Mm.
back to Charlotte.
Yeah.
And like you said, you just get, I mean, you get that 10-hour flight, but then just the time it should be over there. And then, like you said, you're just
What
kind of
day-
screwed for a couple days.
Yeah,
What's
yeah, it
going
was.
on?
It was really. I would get so frustrated because literally it would be like 7:30, and I'm like falling asleep on the couch, and I'm like, come on, like I'm not supposed to sleep right now, you know.
Well, so let's kind of wrap up kind of just this cruise and, I mean, pretty much big vacation as a
Yeah.
whole. What did you end up like, just overall thoughts of this cruise going over to Europe? Would you do a European cruise again if you were to go back over to Europe? Yeah, just your kind of final thoughts on this whole trip.
Yeah, I think just a quick recap for me, like with that, I mean, I think Greece is the perfect place to do a cruise just because there's so many islands. It's a very like island heavy nation, so I think a cruise is a great option for that. But I think overall, like if I was to go back to Europe, I think it would be kind of cool to do a. I think Jason will probably say this as well, but I think doing a cruise maybe in the northern part. But I think maybe if you're doing more of a land heavy, kind of like more focused. If you're going to like Italy or someplace like that, that's a little bit more focused on inland and that sort of thing. It might not be cruising might not be the best option for it because if you especially want to spend more time in one place. Obviously, like I said, Athens was the place that I wanted to spend more time in, so we kind of planned for that and whatnot. But I think cruising Greece is probably, in my opinion, probably the best way to do it if you are going to go over there. And so definitely go back to Europe and maybe cruising the northern parts up near maybe like the UK and Ireland and places like that. I think a cruise up there would be pretty cool.
Norway, Finland, that type
Yeah.
of stuff. The
Norway,
fjords.
yeah, that'd be super cool.
Of course, like I mentioned at the beginning, Brittany and Garrett, this was kind of their dream. They wanted to go to Europe, and their plan was to go spend, a week or two in Europe, just seeing different parts of Europe, not so much a cruise. And we kind of took over the whole vacation and said, nope, we're doing it this way. But Garrett, you might want to look at it for some of the river cruises. So just as an aside, I want to go back and I want to do a Northern European cruise like Garrett was mentioning. I certainly want to do that, but I want to also see the western portion of the Mediterranean, maybe a one-way cruise from, say, Barcelona, Portugal, somewhere in that area, to Istanbul, and fly in over here and fly out over there, something like that, just to be able to see more of it. For
Yeah.
me, I think seeing it from the sea, being able to go hit 5 or 6, 8 different ports if you did a longer cruise is more ideal. You can see more of it in a smaller amount of time. You got your built-in hotel, you got your built-in mechanisms to travel from city to city. That makes more sense for me. But yeah, I certainly want to go back and see more of Europe. Those two types of cruises, the Western Mediterranean and Northern Europe, being my primary things that I certainly want to do. But yeah, I know it was great. And I would like to hit Santorini again if I do go back, simply because I'd like to see it with sunlight as opposed to clouds.
So to kind of wrap up here, is there anything you would have done differently on this cruise, or any tips you have for anybody sailing Celebrity Infinity?
Well, I definitely thank Frank and Michael for booking. You guys were great, kind of helping us navigate.
Yes, absolutely.
You gave us a lot of helpful information. Stuff that I wouldn't have thought to check myself, and really, I think taking the stress of the actual trip out of us and allowing us to enjoy it rather than having to just plan every bit of it. So that was
it was a collaboration. We collaborated on it. I think you guys are engineers, so we can only give you advice on so many things, but you're gonna fact check us and do all that. So
well, it's like I told the two of you at the beginning of it. I don't want to waste your time because I'm a planner. I very much enjoy figuring all of it out, but I do know that there are things as travel agents that you have access to, and things that y'all know. And again, one of y'all been over there already, last year, so you had a little bit of insight. And that's what I wanted to leverage. I wanted to be able to say, hey, give me some advice, basically, then being able to got us a really good deal on the cruise. I wish you'd have got me a really good deal on the airfare, but apparently those are not to be found. So I looked after we booked after we booked the cruise back in November. I looked every day, and we basically booked the airfare at about the cheapest as it was. It would go up, it'd go down, but it never got any less expensive than what we paid for the airfare. So if you want to go to Europe, go in January if you want cheap airfare, although the weather is going to be much colder. As far as a few parting shots on this, I don't know if there's any one cruise that I like better than the other. This is right up there at the top. I think my overall favorite cruise still is my first one. I don't know if that's because it was really that great, if it was my first one, but this reminded me most of it. I think I prefer the smaller ship. One thing about this one that I loved, I told you we like to spend time in the casino. On this particular ship, this particular sailing at least, this casino was non-smoking. There was no smoking at all in the casino.
Oh, nice.
That was fantastic.
That's a celebrity thing.
Okay. Celebrities on the top of my list now because I don't like smelling cigarette smoke.
Well, it would be better if they ventilated those places a little bit better. I mean, like if I remember on the Norwegian ship, going into the going in there, I mean, it would just be haze everywhere. You just felt overwhelmed. You just felt like you couldn't even breathe in there, And so,
it wasn't terrible compared to that Rhapsody of Seas that I went on. Of course, it's an old ship, and it was awful. We went into the casino one time on that and never went back. But it was just, the smoke was too much. My wife is I would say she's allergic to cigarette smoke because in Europe, they smoke so much, she breathed so much it in as we were cruising, figuratively speaking, as we were cruising around Athens, walking around Athens, that it actually caused her some sinus issues throughout the week. But that she's still almost recovered from now.
Oh gosh.
But no, but the Norwegian cruise was decent compared to the Rhapsody. But this casino I never smelled. The only cigarette smoke I smelled at all was off of a dude who just came in from smoking. Right. So
okay, there you go.
But
that's
other
good
than
feedback.
that, the only thing that I would do differently is probably have gotten a shuttle the morning of, or a taxi the morning of, to just go to the cruise port, as opposed to trying to figure it out for ourselves, just so we saved ourselves a little bit of that effort. It may behoove Garrett and I to go into Cruise Critics message boards or somewhere and post how we did it, because we couldn't find where anybody had done it the way we did, and we figured out why, because, well, it just can't be done without walking a long way.
I like to describe it as that, you guys ever see that meme of that guy that's trying to explain something on the board, and he's got all his stuff, and he's like this?
Yeah.
That was us that day. It was literally just like
that was it. That was
just
it.
Like connecting the dots, just trying to get there, so.
Yeah. The only other thing, too, is if you're on a port-heavy itinerary, and especially when you're staying at the ports for a long amount of times in the evening, go ahead and book your dining in the main dining room for 8:30 or whatever the latest you can do it is, because if not, you're going to be watching the clock.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. I mean, we pretty much, anytime we're booking people now, if we can get the late dining, we're like, book that late dining, because you're going to want it. You're not going to want to have to rush back to the ship if you're having a great time in Thessaloniki, you just don't want to have to bother.
Right.
Yeah, and specifically Thessaloniki, we got to the point, I think we had dinner The dining room is at 6:45. We started watching the clock. We're like, we're gonna have to get back. We're gonna have to take a shower. We're gonna have to do this. I think we actually ended up. That was the night. I think we had a different table. We didn't cancel it that night, but we went and just kind of. I went as soon as we got on the ship. I went and said, "Hey, I'm not making this time, but we'll be back." And we basically got the little pager thing when we went back. And had to wait about 20, 30 minutes before we went in that night. So we kind of went in and sat at a different table, but yeah, because I had a 6:45 dining time as opposed. The other nights were 8:30, so I should have just done 8:30 every night and just said we're good. But good deal. Well, thanks for having us, guys.
Well, yeah, hey, really enjoyed having you guys on the podcast. Yeah. It was great, obviously, getting to meet you through this process and getting to work with you, and hopefully we get to do it again soon, maybe on another cruise. So really appreciate the time. Really appreciate just all the insights, and look forward to having you guys back on the podcast hopefully soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks so much
guys.
for having us. Appreciate it.
Well, that wraps up this week's episode. Thank you again to Garrett and Jason for coming on this podcast this week. It's been a really fun journey just helping them plan out this trip. Honestly, I'm a little sad that it's coming to an end. It's been since October, so really gotten to know them well and really had a fun time planning this trip, and to hear about all the amazing adventures, it just kind of felt like we were part of it. So if that's you, if you're listening like them and you're interested in booking a trip with us, we'd love to help you. You can fill out the link in the description of this episode. It's a jot form, that kind of tells us what you're looking for, and we'll help you plan and get some prices. Again, there's no cost or anything to use us, or you can just send us a message or post a comment on any of our videos on YouTube, or send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, etc. But thank you again so much for listening, and we look forward to bringing you another episode next Wednesday.